iPhone 8 versus every iPhone. That video is coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to the iPhone 8 versus every iPhone. Now, if you've been paying attention to the channel, I do have the dummy unit, the prototype, the mock-up unit of the iPhone, which essentially is an iPhone that is sent out to case manufacturers so they can make their case for their phones. So this is definitely going to be basically what the iPhone design is here on for the 8 or edition, whatever they're calling it. Rumors are saying they might call it the edition, they might call it the X, who knows? We'll see when it comes. But I do have every iPhone except for the 5C, the 6 Plus, and I think that's about it, maybe the 4, but you know, the 5S, the 4S, they're about the same as the 4 and the 5. So you can see right here, the first generation iPhone, so the chubby boy. So here it is, definitely a huge departure from this, but it's surprising how long Apple has been able to create a phone that just feels industrial and premium. Even this phone, way back from 2007, although it's a big chubby boy now, it definitely felt premium back in its time. But you can see no home button here for the iPhone 8, and that's going to carry on across this lineup. And there is a home button here on the original iPhone. Now, this was the Steve Jobs era with the 3.5 inch, which he considered to be the perfect screen size for reaching all corners of the display and using it to its best abilities. But that has definitely changed, and the market has responded here. But definitely a lot heavier than the new iPhone 8 here in the iPhone 1. So that's the iPhone 1. So we're basically just looking at design here. Software we're going to talk more about later when the actual phone gets here. So iPhone went to like the 2G, the 3G, and basically that's this phone right here, which definitely doesn't look that much different from the iPhone 1, but you can see still really chubby in comparison to the iPhone, the latest version that is going to be dropping here on September the 12th. And you could see headphone jack still there on the 3GS here, and nothing here for the iPhone 8. Also, you don't have a lightning port. You had that 30-pin connector here on the older models. Really skinny now, so that's a nice upgrade. So if you're still using a 3GS, which surprisingly some people are still using a 3GS, you know, this is going to be a massive update here. Now, volume rocker, silent switch still remains here for the 8. So a lot of the traits that has been carried on throughout the iPhone history continues to remain here. And this kind of reminds me a little bit of this series of phone because it's got that glass back. This was plastic, but it's got that same shiny black look here. So these phones kind of look a little bit similar, even though they're about 8 to 9 years apart. So let's put that one off to the side, and let's get on to the iPhone 4 series, the 4S series of phones. So here is the iPhone 4S, and it's basically very similar to this phone in that it does have a glass back and it does have a glass front, but it definitely doesn't have a home button, so still very different here than the iPhone 8. But I do like how the iPhone 8 is going back to a glass front and a glass rear here on this latest edition. So the 4S definitely started to trim down the iPhone lineup, got a little bit thinner, and a very industrial design. This is one of my favorite iPhones all time here. But you're going to see a flat camera design here on the iPhone 4S as well as the 4 series. So you're definitely going to have a little bit of a hump here on the upcoming 8. And if you got a 4S, this thing is going to be not too much larger, definitely bigger, but you know, it's not going to be like crazy big like an iPhone 7 Plus, for example. So if you're coming from this phone, this is going to be a nice solid update, and it's going to still fit in your hand pretty ergonomically as the iPhone 4 series. So that's the iPhone 4 series. Let's get on to the 5. And I think the 5 is one that a lot of people might be coming from, the iPhone 5. So the iPhone 5, this is going to go for the iPhone SE as well as the 5S. These are all the same, so I'm not going to talk about each one of them individually. All these iPhones right here are the same exact width, design, and all that stuff. So we can actually just put these two off to the side, the SE and the 5S. I don't think a lot of people are going to be upgrading from an SE because they just got their SE, a lot of people. So the iPhone 5 definitely is a very thin phone. It was under 7 millimeters or something like that. Maybe it was 7.1, somewhere around there. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but definitely going to get a nice update here if you have an iPhone 5. And specifically, you're going to get a nice update when it comes to specifications, an A11 CPU, more RAM, better camera. That's really where you're going to shine here on the iPhone 5. In addition to that, the all-screen if you've been on an iPhone 5 for a while, you're probably, in the mood to get a bigger screen. So I think this is going to be a solid update if you are coming from the iPhone 5. So in terms of design, definitely a little bit thinner there on the iPhone 8 design. Again, no headphone jack remains, but a very similar design when it comes to the speaker grills, both placed in similar locations, although there's more holes here on the 5SE, 5S series of device. Lightning ports on both of them remain. So bigger power button here off to the right. On the 5 Series SE 5S, you have the power button on the top, which definitely makes sense here on this smaller phone. It wouldn't have made sense too much here on a tiny phone for this. So that's the iPhone 5, 5S, and SE series of smartphone. Hey guys, so let's get on to the iPhone 6/6 Plus series of smartphone. And here's one that I think is going to be a great upgrade, and one that a lot of people are going to be doing. They're on their 2-year cycle, the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 8. You're going to get a very similar body size and a very similar feel around the edges on the iPhone 8, definitely here for the 6, even the bottom, but you're going to remove that headphone jack. So if you've been using your headphone jack a long time, we all know that's going to be gone here. But what's really nice if you have a 6 is you're going to get an all screen, and you're going to lose these thick bezels here on your 6. So due to these thick bezels, the design on the 6 always felt like it was a bit bigger than it is, just because of the way it's designed with these bigger bezels. If you have thinner bezels up at the top and the bottom, the phone actually gives you a perception that it is smaller feeling. So that's just my experience there. But power buttons are going to be in similar locations, as well as the silent switches. Again, you're going to get a bigger power button here for the iPhone 8 edition, and a slightly bigger phone. You can see right there, just a slightly bigger phone overall in the next generation iPhone, whatever it may be called. So that's the iPhone 6 and 6S series. Okay guys, so let's get on to the 6 Plus and the 6S Plus series of smartphones. This is the 6S Plus, which is basically exactly the same as the 6 Plus, just has a faster processor and better internal, so it counts as both when we're talking about design here. So the iPhone 8 or 10, whatever you want to call it, X, whatever it's going to be called, you can see definitely going to fit inside the body of a 6 Plus or a 6S Plus, but give you a bigger screen. So this is going to be a really nice update for those of you who thought your iPhone 6 Plus or 6S Plus was just a little bit too large, but you really enjoy the bigger screen iPhone. You want something more compact. This is going to be a nice update because you're going to get a bigger screen and a smaller footprint. So I really think that's why the iPhone 8 is going to be a huge seller. Samsung has already done this with the S8 and the S8 Plus, but it's Apple's turn to do this now. And we're going to be shrinking bezels here from the iPhone 6 Plus in a bigger screen, smaller form factor. Also, you're going to remove the home button again, and you're going to get a similar feel at the bottom, just no headphone jack. Off to the sides, very similar there, and the power buttons remain about the same size on the iPhone 8 and the 6S Plus, but you get a slightly bigger extension there on the power button. And the power button, once again, for the 6 Plus and 6S Plus are going to be bigger here for the iPhone 8. So let's get on to the iPhone 7. So the iPhone 7 is definitely last year's phone. It's actually the current phone until Apple announces their new one, the flagship device here. And this is very similar to the 6. What I talked about with the 6, you're going to get a very similar update here. You're going to get probably a better looking design, in my opinion, except for the camera. I'm not sure what I feel about that camera. I don't know if you agree. It's pretty hideous if you ask me. But you're going to get a dual camera on the smaller body. Last year, you only got the dual camera for the 7 Plus series of smartphones. So that's pretty cool to see. You're going to get the smaller form factor with the dual camera. Again, this is going to be very similar at the bottom. No headphone jack on the 7, no headphone jack on the 8 here. So that's going to be a very similar affair. You're going to be used to this. Again, that power button gets a much bigger here. And up at the top, you're going to be about the same. And the volume rockers, as well as the silent switches in the same areas. In terms of thinness, from the iPhone 7 to the 8, it should be slightly thicker on the newer model, but not that much, not even noticeable, really. Again, slightly bigger here, just very slightly. So if you like the iPhone 7 size, you're going to love the size of the upcoming 8 or the X. Hey guys, so the iPhone 7 Plus. So this is one that I'm actually going to be upgrading for. This is my daily driver. That's why you see a skin on it here. And this one is very similar to what I talked about with the 6S Plus. You're going to get, a bigger screen than the 7 Plus sandwiched into a smaller body. And to me, the iPhone 8 or the edition, whatever they're going to call it, seems to be right in between the iPhone 7 and the 7 Plus when it comes to its form factor, its size. So you can see down here, very similar again, no headphone jack coming once again. Power button does get bigger even for the 7 Plus to the next edition. It's going to feel very similar around the edges. thin wise, it's about the same as the 7 Plus here. So it's a nice update here coming with this edition iPhone. That's pretty much my first look at the iPhone 8 versus all of the iPhones. Now I'm going to update this video once again when the official does drop. This is a dummy unit. This is a case manufacturer unit, but this is definitely pretty close to what we're going to see when it does drop. So I wanted to show you how it looks like in comparison to all these iPhones. You might have an iPhone that you might be updating from, and you got a good look here as to what you're going to be updating from in terms of the design department. Now, when it comes to software performance, we're going to be covering that on the channel, so you might want to consider subscribing if you are new here. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, click the like button for me. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.